pedophile paradise.
Yes.
You'd agree with that?
I think that's true.
So this was the body of the Kingdom Hall here?
Yeah. And in the greatest betrayal of all, far from suffering the little children, the church has inflicted untold suffering that lingers into adulthood.
I remember that the first time he actually touched me and did something to me, that was a real life-changing moment. It was terrible. I just knew it would never be the same after that.
For years, Simon Thomas has privately nursed the hurt of a blighted childhood at the Kingdom Hall. Now he wants his story told of how the church protected his abuser, Robert Souter.
It was supposed to be a really nice, safe place, but it wasn't for me or a lot of other kids.
You now know, don't you, that after Souter was abusing you, he was abusing a whole host of others?
Yes.
How many?
I know of 10 personally, but the police that I've spoken to have said there's around 40.
40 others?
That they know of.
After you?
After me.
If the church had listened to the pleas that you were making, how many of those kids could have been saved?
Well, all of them.
All of them? 40 kids?
I think all of them could have been saved.
Ingleburn, southwest Sydney, the Watchtower's Bethel or House of God, its sprawling Australian headquarters. More than 300 people live and work on this site. It includes a publishing arm printing Watchtower material in 70 languages. In the legal department here, every instance of child abuse known to the church is carefully filed away, but it's not reported to the authorities. The church regards such cases as confidential. So, just how many child abusers are there on the files in there? Well, the church tells us pointedly it's none of our business. But at every turn in this investigation, we came across victims unwilling to speak out, not because of their abusers, but because of the church, fearful of losing their friends, even their families. The church calls it keeping the congregation clean, not of pedophiles, but of anything that damages the Watchtower's reputation.
How do you think you're going to be treated by the church from now on?
I don't know. It's yet to be seen. But I would rather say something than to just be quiet and wait any longer.
Surprisingly, Simon still counts himself a witness, whereas Natalie Webb has left the church behind, unable to come to terms with the blind eye it turns to her father's depravity.
Because my dad wanted me to have sex with animals and have lesbian liaisons and like all these things. And
you told them that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they knew. And they said we don't need to know details to make a decision. We're being guided by God.
Jehovah, our God of love, we come before your lofty throne and ask that we can be heard by you.
But before we examine these cases in detail, some understanding is needed of what sets the Jehovah's Witnesses apart, what makes their critics doubt they'll ever be shamed into reform by the kind of allegations that have forced changes in the mainstream churches like the Anglicans and Roman Catholics.
Amen.
Is there any chance whatsoever that this organisation can reform itself?
No.
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 So if there's going to be any reform of their handling of child abuse, it's going to have to be imposed on them?
Yes.
God's enemies will never prevail over his loyal ones.
The Jehovah's Witnesses, there's only one true religion, theirs. Jehovah God, the only God, his word in the Bible to be taken literally. The act of baptism through total immersion symbolizes total surrender to Jehovah and his only legitimate authority on earth, the Watchtower Society. Witnesses live in what they call the truth, the rest of us in the world. A world, the church would have it, governed by Satan.
If you decide you want to do some of your own thing, well, you can. Be careful, because This world is deceived. It's deceived by the devil.
And Satan's temptations abound, even across a crowded room. Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to marry outside the church, a source of much heartache in itself.
What were the circumstances that led to you leaving?
I attended a son's wedding.
Your own son?
My own son, yeah.
What was wrong with that?
Well, he was marrying a young lass who was an Anglican. Now, all other churches are considered as children of the devil. So they said, and I quote from the man who was the branch coordinator at the time, you don't give your children to the Philistines.
But the strictures go on. Jehovah's Witnesses can't vote, can't join the military, aren't allowed to celebrate Christmas, even their own birthdays.
Birthdays, because they see it as bringing too much attention to a single person. With Christmas, I think everybody understands that a lot of the symbolism associated with Christmas obviously isn't Christian. It's come from other practices from around the world, and they use that as their part of their justification.
And most controversial of all, Jehovah's Witnesses can't have blood transfusions, a dictate based on an obscure biblical passage that's cost many thousands of lives worldwide.
I was 18 at the time, my brother was 20, he shot himself in the next room. He shot himself in the head. We rushed in there, he's bleeding from from his ears, his nose, everything. And my first thought, I said to my parents, whatever you do, don't let them give him a blood transfusion.
So you'd been brainwashed?
I had been brainwashed. That is what I thought, he mustn't have a blood transfusion. Here's my brother dying in front of me. And that was my first thought.
Your priority?
My priority.
How do you feel about that?
I'm on the verge of tears now as I think about it. It was just so callous, so, yeah, that's what the religion does.
Bad stuff.
Bad stuff. Bad stuff.
Some of it actually here inside the hall.
And then there's the child abuse, all the elements of exploitation, betrayal and cover-up, present in the saga of what happened to Simon Thomas.
He actually molested you inside the church itself?
Inside the Kingdom Hall, yeah.
Amazing.
It is. Looking back, it was amazing.
And equally amazing, Natalie Webb's story. Her father's abuse compounded by the callous indifference of church leaders when it was brought to their attention.
You must have been devastated.
Well, I tried to take my own life a few weeks later because I couldn't cope with it.
So you tried to commit suicide. As a result of that, did you get any help at all from them?
I got a counselling session from them saying that it was due to me not forgiving my father, that's why I wasn't coping.
Well, I was told that to endure until the end is to be faithful. It demonstrates your faith. And I was also told to leave it to Jehovah, because Jehovah will work it out. But why can't we expose these things that are happening and then leave it to Jehovah?
We can't live with this anymore. It has to come out in the open. I'll give you a week to go to the elders.
But Victor Webb wasn't about to confess, so he was exposed.
Okay, so your husband goes to the elders. Which elder did he go and see?
Morris Hadley.
Morris, yeah.
Morris Hadley. That is from the Sunday program.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you about the sex abuse case involving Natalie Webb.
Oh, right.
Yeah. You know her father?
Well, indeed I do.
You used to play tennis with him, didn't you?
Where did you get all this information?
Well, we have our sources.
Yeah.
Do you still have any contact with Vic?
Occasionally.
What did Morris Hadley say to him?
Well, he was very shocked and couldn't believe it.
Because your father had been so devout?
And they were quite friendly.
What do you think about what he did to his daughter?
I think it's deplorable. Absolutely disgusting.
Why?
And I have never, ever condoned that man's behaviour.